Continuing with blends, we saw how you can take images and morph from one shape to another. I'm going to show you another way to use blends. And let me just get some of this stuff put back together. Okay, if you take your a shape and put a similar shape right on top of it. Now let me just start with some flat colors here, and I'll turn my stroke off. Okay, I'll just use a simple star here, and if I make a copy of that or draw a new star, I can draw a new star, or I can make a copy of it. We'll just for simplicity's sake, let's deselect that one, and we'll draw another one with a different color. Okay, so now I've got the same star. I'm just going to draw it smaller, and I'll put it a little closer to the middle here. Okay, so having drawn that one first and this one second, I'm in my regular drawing mode. Select the two of them, and remember, you can use the tool, or you can go to Object, Blend, and Make. There's even a shortcut for it, Option Command B. Let's see if that works. Option Command B. Yeah, and it does that thing, which is kind of interesting. It makes it look pretty three-dimensional. Now, you can take, and again, you can do any of the things that we know how to do here. If I put a stroke on it, then I'll get a kind of a pattern going in here, and that stroke can be any color. Okay, now it's set here on sort of like infinite steps. It's probably like 100 or something. If I select the blend, I can modify that. Go to Object, Blend, and Blend Options, and instead of smooth color, you can specify the steps. Maybe make it fewer. Now you can really see the stroke in there, and you can see how the one shape is blending into the other. Now the middle shape is white with orange stroke. The outside shape is blue with no stroke. If you look at it in outline view, remember, you can still select individual parts. You can go back into your preview, and you can assign a stroke color for that blue. Let me just switch back to this. Click right on that point. Yeah, that's not going to work. Let's use the white plus arrow. That'll work. And with the white plus, you still get the options up here for your fill and stroke. I'll change the stroke on the blue arrow to, on blue star, to something light color, like maybe yellow. Okay, now if you look really close, you can see what's going on here. It starts out with yellow stroke and ends up with a orange stroke. It starts off with a blue fill and ends up with a white fill. And in 30 steps, it looks like that. Pretty neat. Any of that can still be modified. If I select the star in the middle, take the stroke off, then you can see that actually the white arrow, the white star is covering up the yellow that we still have out here. Okay, so that one's not, that stroke color is not adding a whole lot to the look of the thing, unless I give it fewer steps. So I'll go to Blend, Blend Options, and instead of 20, let's make it, say, 6. And it looks like the yellow's still kind of getting covered up by the other by the other. What if I make this one slightly transparent? We'll cut the white down to 50%. Yeah. Still not a whole lot of influence from that yellow stroke on the outside. Okay, so maybe that's not really even worth it. Let's take that stroke off. Let's add a stroke to the white arrow that's in the middle. How about orange? We did that already. How about blue? That's kind of neat. Okay, so you can get all kinds of neat patterns in these concentric shapes. Remember, you can also click once with the white, and then go to the black, and you can do things like this. And now the middle shape is beginning to turn. You can only turn so far, and then it kind of like turns the other way because it's a repeated shape. Okay, if I used a 5-pointed star, this I think is even more pronounced. You can try that sometime. But you can see how they're slightly turning as they come in from the outside. Okay, it's very experimental. I'm just kind of figuring out. Every time I use it, I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. Okay, there's what it looks like at 100%. Okay, when you do this shape on top of a shape like this, you don't get that spine. Let me show you what I mean. It'll still do straight lines, but there's no spine. See that? In outline view, there's no spine. I'm not sure why that's true, but it's true. Okay, when they're stacked on top of each other, they have a really pretty nice look. You can still select them. You can still go in and change the blending options. If you want to use smooth color, and now it's just like a whole bunch of steps. Okay, I'm going to take off the stroke here for even better effect. Isn't that nice? Okay, now you can also do this with type. Type is a lot of fun with this too. So I'll just type something here. I usually use all caps. It just seems like it works better. Okay, and I'll make it a little bigger. Notice I just did the click. I don't draw a box. There's some big advantages to just using the click method here. I'm going to just change that to a blue type. I'll zoom in. Okay, I'm going to option and drag and make a copy of it here. And I'll change this front copy to a different color, maybe orange. And let's make it something in the cool color range, purple. Okay. Then select them both. And again, you can either use the make or the blend tool. Click here, and then click here, and you'll see an intermediate step there. If you go back up to the make, up to the menu, and change your blending options so that we have more color instead of just one, type in 20, touch preview, and you get this wonderful color change here like that. Now, just like we did with the shapes, you can select one area of the color, and you can change the fill color, make it into, oh yeah, it won't work with gradients, so never mind that. You can't do gradients with type. But look at that, isn't that pretty? Or what if I added a very thin stroke here? If I just added a really thin stroke of, let's say, blue, I will make it as skinny as I can make it. Okay, and then if I select this front copy by itself, you can pull it down, and you'll see all the variations in between. Plus, as you look up close, you can see the little stroke on the front type there morphing into the back. It finally disappears into the color back here. Okay, pretty neat. Okay, you can still continue to work with it. Change to a yellow. You can see all the steps in there. Okay, with this, I would just say, be careful and don't do anything that's impossible to read. Reading is pretty important when you're working with type. There's no spine here, although one of my students showed me that she did have a spine with her type, and I'm not sure how she did that. You can select the back copy with the white plus, then go to the black arrow. Remember, you can do this. You can select first with the white arrow and then reduce the back And you can do things like that. And you can still move that back copy separate from the front. Okay, select it with the first with a white arrow, and then with the black arrow, and you can do this stuff. Again, you have to be careful that you can actually read it, because it does kind of get a little bit difficult pretty quickly. Okay, I'm going to change that to a black fill. Wow, that's actually pretty cool. Okay, so you can always select the front from the back if you use one of the white arrows. And I'm doing it here in outline view. You don't have to do it in outline view, but if you do it in outline view, you can do it like this. All right, now we're getting a nice kind of three-dimensional look there. And if you put them a little closer together, and if you take the stroke off of the front copy, you get a different kind of effect still. Remember, you can go back to your black arrow. Let's see, I want to do it this way. And just keep maneuvering it, messing with it, till you get something that you really like. Holding the shift key down here. You can see all that stuff. Select the whole thing again. You got to always go back up to blend options. You can make more steps if you like. Click on the preview. Now it's starting to smooth out pretty well. 50 steps. Click, reselect. Okay. This orient has to do with type on shape, but we'll look at that later. Okay, that's kind of cool. If you take that type and if you outline the type, go to Type, Create Outlines. Now, instead of it being a font, it's no longer a font. I can still select the letters. Actually, this way is better. And I can select all of the letters. I use the white plus there. Remember, it's called a group selection tool. Now that I've got the oops, look at that, it misses these. It didn't get those little parts in the middle. You can fill this with gradients because it's no longer type. Because it's no longer type, it's just shapes that happen to look like type. Remember, we did it like this. Select there. I want to see if there's any difference if I also add those shapes that it missed. Okay. Gradient. You can add gradients to type when they are outlined. If they're not outlined, you can't. Now you can also use the gradient tool on it. And if you wanted to just treat the whole type as if it's one thing instead of see how it's separate for every one, go to your gradient tool and drag it across. Is that going to work? Got to have the fill forward. There we go. Now it'll work. Click and drag. And now it's light at the top, dark at the bottom, and treating the word as if it's a single object. Kind of cool. Okay, remember, it's a grouped object, so to select part of it without selecting it all, use the group selection tool. Add the shift key for these parts that didn't select. You go back to preview, and then experiment with your colors. I think, yeah, it'll do patterns, but patterns don't really look, you can't read it. Okay, so there we are, back with the gradient. Make sure the gradient fill is forward. You can use the gradient tool now and do some nice things with the gradient like that. That looks pretty nice. Deselect to make your evaluation. And you can go back in and do this as many times as you want. I stopped on 20. Let's make it 50. And OK that. Now look how smooth that looks. Okay. So type, a lot of fun to do type in these with this blending. You can also morph shapes, and we looked at this in class. I'll deselect and start with a solid color. We did, you can do things like this. Have one shape. I'll do like a bird. Okay, so kind of a bird shape. Okay. And then down here at the bottom, I'll do a different shape, maybe like a turtle. Just using the pencil tool here. Okay, and I'll give it a different color fill. Okay. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that when you're using the pencil, it's really hard to get a shape to close. So I'm going to close this shape because closed shapes work better when you're doing this blending. So I'm just going to join that with Command J to add that little point right there. With the pen tool, I'll just delete this anchor point. And there's my really special turtle. And then I've got a really special bird up here that probably needs the same treatment. If I look here, I started right there. I might have accidentally done it right here. Yeah, maybe. It looks like maybe it's closed. Oh, there's where I started. You can see where it's pulled apart. I'll just take those two anchor points and join them. Command J, and then with my pen tool, I'll delete this anchor point. And you can modify this and make it look a little bit more like a bird if you want to, of course. And maybe something like this. Anything you want to do to make it look better. Okay, but I'll say that that's perfect. And you got to admit that's pretty good. Okay. Yeah. And so now I've got the bird up here and the turtle down here. I'm selecting it with my regular selection tool. Go to Object, Blend, and Make. Now I could just as easily use the Blend tool. Okay, so either way is fine. Now it has created this smooth color. But if you go back to Object, Blend, and Blend Object Options, and change it to fewer colors, or fewer steps, let's make it 7, let's say. You can really kind of see a bird sort of turning into a turtle. Okay, you can still maneuver it, select a single object by itself, select the bird by itself. You can select the spine, use the pen tool, add an anchor point, use the white arrow tool. Oh, you know what? I've been thinking about this. I wonder if I could use the reshape tool. It's an anchor point tool, right? Only it adds curves. So let's select that now with the white arrow. And sure enough, there's a nice curve. Some nice curve work using the reshape tool on that. Now you can still move things apart. You can change the angle of the spine, and remember you can also expand it where these truly are then individual objects. Okay, outline view no longer shows the spine. They are truly individual objects. And so you could, I don't know, use them to show some kind of transition or step-by-step kind of thing. You know, you could use, you could do them in an alternating sequence. Here and then here. and then here, and then here, and then here. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but you could. Just because you can. So same reason that Edmund Hillary decided to climb Mount Everest. Okay. The line panel will help you with multiple selections. I guess you can't find it. There it is. Line them at their top or middle. Huh. I wonder if it's because I'm off the artboard that it's not really working. Let me make this a little smaller. Bring it up here. Smaller still. Okay, now let's see if it'll work for me. Huh. I wonder if it's because they're grouped. I'll ungroup them. What I'm trying to do is get them to align at their tops. Now they're working. And I'll move this guy way over here. Then I'll select all of them. And we'll redistribute. And you can see how that's working now too. Okay, interesting. And teacher just keeps on finding new stuff. All right. So there's how you can morph a shape and then turn it into individual objects. Here's a way to make a really cool three-dimensional looking thing. Okay. We are into this quite a ways now, so I'll stop here.